Hello, and let's get on with it. This is an archer, and if you're here only for the build itself, then these are the abilities, and these are the attributes. But now let's get on to the explanation. First, the only ability that increases the damage of your bow and daggers is dexterity. Mainly bows here. It also increases swords, but we'll get to that. It increases bow damage the most, so you want to very heavily invest into dexterity on every archer build. Now this is what I would consider the maximum dexterity you should be putting into an archer. A lot of people will put all of the points into dexterity and leave nothing for the constitution. Now there are some flaws with this. First of all, you're gonna have much less stamina and stamina regeneration, which means you will run out of stamina sooner and will stop shooting and regain it, which means your DPS will lower. And the second thing is your health will be lower as well, so after you receive a hit you would have to hide, and in which case your DPS equals 0. So this is how I would do an archer if you want to go with a pure archer build. If you want to melee or skirmish a bit more, you might go with something like 275 dexterity, 150 constitution and 150 strength. Or if you want to use the sword even more, you can go with 149 strength, 200 constitution and 242 dexterity, which actually was the build I was using just before I respected to this, just for you guys. And also people like to use 200 constitution and 265 dexterity, which is as well a very viable archer build. Now the armor you should be using should always be full light armor. Now there is arguably, some people say you should be using shield, some people say you shouldn't. What are the pros and cons? Well, if you equip the shield, first thing you're gonna notice is that you are losing damage. You're losing 2% of your damage, and you're actually getting 2% to your stamina drain multiplier, but that is not a big issue at all. So basically 2% damage lost. It's not a big deal, but some people actually like to max it out. And shield is very useful, well, in melee, because you can equip it alongside with a 100 weapon, and it helps you blocking if you're not that good at blocking. And in ranged, but in ranged you should be exchanging fire with the enemy archer anyway, so it's a hit or miss whether you want to use the shield or not. But definitely if you are running away and they are shooting at your back, they might be hitting the shield, so this is a zone that they're gonna hit instead of damaging you and slowing you down, because if they hit the shield they are not going to slow you down, which is very important when running away. Now to the abilities. First, I would go for the tough one because it gives you more hit points, and more hit points is always good because the DPS of a dead character equals 0. So you want more hit points, you want to survive more, and to be able to exchange fire with the enemy archers for longer. These two abilities, they will actually give you some shield. They're not really required, they're only picked because I want to get to the tough one. Now this is a must. This is a marksman skill. It actually reduces the time that your bow is being pulled and able to shoot. And because this ability, as an archer, you can actually use reflex bow, because every other character shouldn't, because of this ability. If you don't have it, the reflex bow is far worse from the longbow. So yeah, use the longbow if you don't have a marksman skill. If you have a marksman skill, you can use any of them, but I will still prefer the longbow. It is a superior weapon in my opinion. Next, it's the repair, because we have 200 sword. And with 200 sword and a lot of dexterity, which actually boosts the damage of the sword, you are doing a lot of damage. And ask any of your tanks in heavy armor if they can do that kind of damage with their 200 swords. They do not. So next, you want the strongman, because damage dealt at full power bar increases by 0.5% per level, which means 5% per level, and 5% is quite a lot when you maxing. And when you're shooting a bow, you actually want to be shooting when the bar is fully drawn, like this. Next, athlete. This is a skill, is a must for every character, really, because it's running and you're either chasing or fleeing, and in both cases you want to be as efficient as possible. Next, dirty fighting increases your backstab damage and headshot damage. Now, archers deal a lot of damage with daggers, because daggers is a very powerful weapon, and it only benefits from dexterity. No matter how many points you put in the strength, damage bonus to daggers should be 0 or very, very minimum if they change it. But at this point it's 0, so only use daggers if you're high dexterity build. And with marksman, you're also increasing the bleeding you do with daggers, which is also very important, that you can kill a lot of enemies that are trying to flee while it's already too late. And dirty fighting increases the backstab damage with all of your weapons, and it increases headshot damage that you can do with your bow, so that's also very good. Next, it's the huntsman. It increases the ammo penetration of 0.5% per level, so 5% total. So this longbow that normally has 15% ammo penetration now has 20. That is very good. That is very important when you're shooting them heavy guys. And you can also hold your bow for longer, but that bonus is actually very unnoticeable. You want this skill for the penetration. Finesse. I would put 10 points into it, but I don't really want to take it away from anywhere else. But this is good, because that allows you to shoot more before you run out of stamina. And veteran gives you more maximum stamina. It increases your maximum stamina by 2% per level, so that's 20%. That is a lot. That's good for running, that's good for shooting, that's good for blocking, that's good for everything. And then as an archer, you want to be increasing your piercing attack, because that increases your dagger damage, your bow damage, and your sword when you are thrusting it. So, a very good ability. Now, a lot of people go for the battle rage on the archer so that you don't get interrupted when you shoot, but I am not a fan of skills that have cooldowns. So I prefer survival instinct, which means when you're under 40% of your health and you are being shot in the back while fleeing, you are not getting slowed down, and that ability will save your life a lot of times. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is how I build my archer. And thanks for watching, and bye.